Welcome to Charlotte's Storytime. Today we'll be reading All of a Kind Family, Chapter 2 by Sydney Taylor. Dusting is fun. After breakfast Monday morning, Mama said, "Henny, put aside your book. It's your turn to dust the front room today." "Mama, let Ella do it," Henny said. "I have to finish my homework." "I will not," retorted Ella, her black eyes snapping. "It's your turn. I did it yesterday." "Ella is right," Mama said. "You should have done your homework yesterday instead of leaving it until the last moment. You'll have to do it." "Then let Charlotte do it. She hasn't done a thing all morning." "I've got to finish my homework." "Charlotte will help dry the breakfast dishes this morning. That's her job today. Your job today is to dust the front room." "All right, then. I'll have a swell excuse when the teacher asks me why I haven't finished my homework. I'll say my mother took up all my time with dusting." Henny tossed her blonde curls defiantly. How her sisters envied her those curls. She slammed the front room door as she went in to perform her job. Mama knew it would be a job badly done. She sighed. She was tired of the girls forever trying to avoid doing this chore. She would have to think of something. After the children had gone to school, Mama thought. Frequently she smiled. She got out her sewing box and began rummaging through it, picking out a dozen colored buttons. Then she put the box away and went back to her work, humming softly to herself. The following morning, Mama put the buttons in her apron pocket and went into the front room, closing the door. The children stared after her and then looked at one another. "Say, do you think Mama is going to dust the front room herself this morning?" Henny asked. "She didn't have a dust rag with her," Ella said. "Maybe she's looking around to see how dusty the room is," came from Charlotte. Mama was in the front room for a few minutes. When she came out, she was smiling. "Well, girls," she said, "we're going to play a game, and I've been getting the room ready for it." The children became very interested. "What game?" "It's a game of hide and seek," Mama answered. "I have hidden a dozen buttons in the front room. If the one who dusts can find those 12 buttons, she will have done a wonderful dusting job, and I won't even have to check up on her. Now, let's see. Whose turn is it to dust today?" "It's my turn! My turn!" shouted Sarah. "Aw, Ma, let me do it today." "No, me!" Those children fought for a chance at the hated chore. Even baby Gertie, who had never been expected to do so before, now was eager to try her hand at it. "It's really Sarah's turn," Mama said. "So in you go, Sarah. I expect you to bring back 12 buttons." Sarah took up the dust cloth and fairly skipped out of the kitchen. In a minute, she was back again. "Forgot the stool," she explained. 8-year-old Sarah was too small to reach the high places without the aid of a stool. Now, fully armed with dust cloth and stool, she disappeared into the front room, while her sisters watched enviously. You needn't be so unhappy," Mama told them. "You'll each get your turn at the game when your dusting day comes." Sarah stood still beside the closed door of the front room and looked about her. Such a big room, she thought. So many good hiding places and all its furnishings. What would be the best way to hunt? "I guess I'd better dust the same way I always do," she finally decided, and proceeded towards the big table standing in the middle of the room. She reached a fruit bowl that was set in the exact center of the table. She dusted the big family album that rested at one end. No time today to examine the pictures of a youthful Papa and Mama without any children. Today she had to hunt for buttons, so she put the album on a chair without even opening it. Then she removed the tablecloth. No button here. She got down on a thick red and green carpet to dust the table leg. At the base of the leg, staring up at her, lay a shiny red button. Sarah's eyes began to dance with excitement. This was going to be fun. Button number 1 was slipped into her apron pocket. The table was finished and cover and objects were placed. Chairs were carefully dusted next. They were hard to do, and Mama had 5 of them. The first yielded nothing. Neither did the second. The third had a button slid neatly in one of the hard-to-dust places in its back. Button number 2 hit button number 1 with a click as it was deposited in Sarah's apron pocket. The last 2 chairs were dusted, but no more buttons turned up. Sarah stood on the tool to dust the top of the upright piano. She dusted off each knick-knack thoroughly, and hopefully she lifted the piano cover so that she might wipe the wood smooth of dirt. Her effort was rewarded, for there lying peacefully on the piano top was button number 3. How Sarah was tempted to give up cleaning the rest of the piano. There was so much to it, and surely Mama wouldn't put 2 buttons in one piece of furniture. Still, it wouldn't be playing the game fair. And besides, one never could tell. Mama might be trying to catch her in just a trick. Sarah dusted the foot pedals, but found no buttons, nor were there any on the lid covering the keyboard. Piano keys had to be kept clean too, so she went up to the lid, and there was another button. Sarah was jubilant. She carried the stool over to the mantel shelf. Up she went, dustcloth tight in one hand. Now she could lift the china shepherd and shepherdess. She liked to handle these, especially the shepherdess, so dainty in her pink and blue dress with tiny rosebuds on it. She picked her up first. Something rattled. In the opening at the back of the little lady, which was for flowers, Mama had put button number 5, and that was all Sarah found on the mantel shelf. 2 small round tables stood in front of the lace-curtained windows. Sarah started to work on these. On the first she discovered nothing, but under the doily which decorated the top of the second table, she found the 6th button. Mama wanted her helpers to dust windowsills. Sarah remembered, and because she did, she was able to add both the 7th and 8th buttons to her pockets. Sitting right on the floor near the white window woodwork was button number 9. If Sarah had neglected the woodwork, she never would have found it. She stopped in front of the tall mirror that stood between the windows and began making faces at herself. Now where shall I hunt for 3 more buttons? She asked her reflection. As she looked about, Sarah's eyes fell on the colored calendar that Mama hung on the wall. This is a new month, she thought. I might as well change the calendar whilst I'm here. Neatly, Sarah tore off the sheet that said November 1912. She got down on the rug and looked about the room thoughtfully. Pretty nearly everything had been gone over, excepting the large seashells lying on the floor on each side of the mirror. Sarah liked these shells. If she held one close to her ear, she could hear a strange noise like the roaring of waves. She picked up the shell, dusted it off, and held it close to her ear for a minute, listening. She hoped a button would pop out, but there was no button, only the same rushing sound. Sarah picked up the second shell, and a button looked up at her. 10 buttons found. Only 2 more to go. All that was left was the woodwork. Sarah dusted the door first, for the ridge near the bottom was such a dust-gathering place, and right there on the flooring below the door ridge was button number 11. The baseboards about the entire room were dusted, but there was still 1 button missing. That meant Sarah had overlooked something, but what? Had she dusted the underneath part of the second table, or had she forgotten to do it in the excitement of finding the button under the doily? Well, she'd do it again just to make sure. She was very glad indeed that she did make sure, for there on the table, curved up leg, reposed button number 12. She threw open the front room door, and came running into the kitchen, crying out joyfully, I found them! I found them all! Every single one of them! Ma, you certainly picked some swell hiding places, but it was fun. I'd like to do it again. For the next week, Mama had a beautifully clean front room, and there was not a single grumble. After that, the children might have tired of the game, and Mama would be right back where she started. But she was a wise mother. At the end of the week, the buttons went back into the sewing box. Mama said she didn't have time to put the buttons out every morning. From now on, they would be hidden only occasionally. No child would know just when she might find buttons during her dusting, because Mama would hide the buttons at night after the girls had gotten to sleep. Also, the number would be different, sometimes 6, sometimes 10. Mama was good as her word. Sometimes she brought out her buttons once or twice during the week. Sometimes she would let 2 weeks pass by without producing them. And then every day in one memorable week, Mama hid buttons plus one shiny copper penny. Finders keepers, she told the little dusters. The grumbling didn't stop completely, but it was not nearly so loud or so often. And in the meantime, the children were taught to be the best little housekeepers in the whole world. Thank you for listening to Charlotte's Storytime. Join in next time for Chapter 3 of All of a Kind Family. And maybe, later this week, some more interesting books by Charlotte Storytime.